Hello, everyone. This is David Tanenbaum here on Father's Day from California, and I'm speaking with David Russell in Spain. Welcome, David.
Hello, David. How are you?
I'm good. This is our second interview for one of your projects, and I'm particularly fascinated by this one because you're recording the Bach Lute Suites in different Baroque churches in Spain. When Richard told me about this project, I almost did like a cartoonish double take because I haven't associated you with these works so much. I think of you playing, the flute sonata and the Bach chorales and things like that. So my first question is, why these pieces and why now?
Well, they're such an emblematic part of our repertoire. And as a guitarist, I've played all the suites, but I just never really had them all under my fingers at the same time. And I've only recorded the fourth Lute Suite and the Prelude Fugue and Allegro, which I'm going to include that as well. So it's really going to be 5 projects, if you like. Great. And because of we were joking, our downtime, that is that, no concerts and no traveling and things, it was just fun to relearn and refinger and rework things. Because, for example, the second Lute Suite I did as my final exam when I was 20 years old or something. And, it's so much work at that age. I thought, I never want to see this piece again.
Have you not seen the piece since then?
Oh, yeah, of course.
You played it since
then. I've never had it in repertoire since then. Since I did my finals, I thought that piece is going to get put down and rest for a long time.
Right.
And then to start looking at it, it was just so beautiful. And so I really wanted to get it. So I learned that one. And the other ones, the first Lute Suite, for example, is super difficult to really do what I think the music needs, especially the courant. That's really one that's just really hard to, it really sounds like a keyboard piece and it feels like a keyboard piece. The other ones fit very well, but the courant and the jig needs to go fast, and it's a lot of notes. So that one I learned, and it was a lot of fun to put the time in. And then the idea came, it's not so much in Baroque churches, but in Baroque surroundings, because these pieces are not really ecclesiastic, as a lot of Bach's works have a very strong connection to Jesus Christ or God or something, whereas these are less so, if you like. But of course, especially here, most of the Baroque places that have maintained their Baroque ornamentation or whatever are churches or monasteries. So at least several are going to be the first one is in a monastery that's not far from our home in Celanova, and the second one is going to be, I've done it already, in Tibais, which is in the north of Portugal, a wonderful monastery there, and so on. That's the way we're going.
Lovely. I think perhaps only the Prelude Fugue and Allegro has a religious association because the number 3 is all over that suite, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yes.
I want to get back to what you said about the courant and the jig. We don't have a manuscript, as you know, of this piece, but we're almost sure that it's the earliest of them all. Probably the manuscript the copy that we have dated is between 1710 and 1717. So Bach was perhaps not even 30 when he wrote this piece. And this copy is the only one of all the lute works that says Lautenwerk on it, which is the instrument that Bach helped invent, which is the harpsichord with gut strings. But I feel it's very keyboard oriented as well. And I think one of the challenges of it is that it sits very low in our register. It sits low in the harpsichord register also. But I think that's probably what you were talking about with the courant, to get all the ornamentation and to deal with, this French style in such a low register is challenging. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, but also to get especially the ornamentation, the trills that are, it's very easy for us to do little trills and just, you just put in a couple of notes or a little twiddle left hand or right hand. But there are quite a few. I mean, within the first 2 bars, you really need more than just a mordant, for it to come alive.
Yeah.
And so I've taken advantage of the 2-string trills and really, in the way I've worked it, hopefully I've got most of the trills working well enough, but most of the time we can't do what the harpsichord can do, or the keyboard. We can't take it to the lengths that they can. And I think the piece does need quite a lot of that. Well, the ornamentation is an essential part of that piece. And so hopefully, I mean, the way I've done it now is so different to the way I would have done it 30 years ago. And it's been fun. It's been fun to find some way of making it work.
Yeah. Well, I think when we do cross string trills, we sound most like a keyboard ornamenting, more so than we do left-hand trills. And it feels like the saraband is almost just like a written out ornamentation of Bach.
Yes.
A kind of a way to see into his mind, like in the second and sixth English suites where he writes ornamentation out. I find that saraband particularly beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what stands out to me in this suite also is the jig that you mentioned. The suite is really mostly in French style, but that jig is, first of all, very difficult. I remember Julian Bream saying it was the single hardest piece he ever played, in his opinion. And it's also very Italian, very rolling on, and in the longest meter that Bach ever used, which was 12/8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's unusual, totally unusual in that sense. But I mean, maybe he was experimenting with ways of writing out that, because you could write it out in different meter and just in straightforward 3/8, or and just cut it up. But it's obviously, something's gone dark here, and I'm in someone else's house, so I really don't know how that light goes on or off. Well,
maybe this is more Baroque-like anyway. We don't have good light.
I know what happened was that his computer has gone off.
Okay.
Okay, doesn't matter. There we go.
There we go.
No. And so, to try and understand what Bach was aiming at, well, we all can come to conclusions, but it's difficult to really know because he was so inventive with everything he did.
Right.
And so we have to just make up our own mind.
Yeah.
And the piece itself, I wanted to get it up to a fast enough speed to where it goes along, but that makes it really quite difficult. And there's a whole lot of it you can play fast, but then there are 3 or 4 bars that you just can't get all the notes in if you go that fast.
The famous ones, and about 2/3 of the way through the second half. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That run intense, it's just like really hard to do, but still, it's worth the effort because it does sound great.
Oh, I mean, the writing is just unbelievable. So in this approach to the suite, are these new revisions you've made, or are you playing kind of an edition that you played before?
Well, I've got several people's different editions, and I used really as a basis. I used Frank Kuntz's the editions of the Bach suites that he did.
Yes.
But Frank's gives some different suggestions in different ways. But in the end, we all make up our own fingering, and even when you have to choose between notes, we have to make up our own mind.
Absolutely.
If notes that, like, where do you jump the octave if you're going to drop a note or something? We each have our own ways of doing it. So it's not really, I don't want to call it my transcription because I didn't really go completely to the source. I've got the score, the originals, and there's go over it, but not the original score. I've got copies of, and
copies of the copies, basically.
Yeah, copies of the copies and things. And so, of course, anything that I had a doubt, I look at the source and check it out and make up my own mind.
Yeah, of course. And in fact, what's great about that edition, besides its accuracy and its stylistic awareness, is the fact that the originals are in the back. And
that's
so
right.
You can refer to them right there, which is just fantastic. Yeah. And I assume you do the whole thing with E tuning, because some people go down to D for the prelude.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it makes the presto. In a recording you could do that. Have the passaggio first bit. Have that with D and then just tune up and then record on from there. But really, it's in a concert you could never do that. And I wanted to play it sort of like a concert, although I'm not playing it as a live straight through, and I've mixed it with different angles and I wanted the feeling. I'm sitting beside a huge, wonderful Baroque organ in this Baroque church that's part of the monastery. And so the way I've made the film is there's a couple of minutes of intro where I just talk a little bit about the place. And I've decided to cut out some of the intro, and that's going to go at the end. So if people want to watch some more, where I talk some more about the monastery and what's happened in the history of the monastery, that's at the end, you know, so you don't have to wait too long before you actually get into the music. It's just a couple of minutes, so to get into the atmosphere of the place. And actually I love playing there because sitting in a place, an organ that was finished in 1710, I think it says on it, and the building of the ceiling in just under where I am, it says 1690 something, or on it. I think so I'm sitting in a place that was being built when Bach was alive, and things. That's kind of inspiring in an odd way. I didn't think it would be so much, but it is.
Absolutely. In fact, if it was 1710, that was the decade he wrote this piece. So that's pretty great. Yeah, I remember I was judging a competition in Bologna, and I was conducting a guitar ensemble version of a Mozart symphony, and I happened to be in a room in Bologna, and it said, "This is where Mozart wrote that symphony." And it was just, there's something about it. I mean, it could have even have been false, but I brought the score and I studied the piece in that room, and the feeling of it was just amazing,
Right.
So, yeah.
I think being in a situation, in a place that is history, makes it special. It's like I learned the Suite Compostelana in Santiago de Compostela.
Nice.
when I was studying there in the 70s, and it made it more special. I might have learned that piece without particular interest in some other place, but being there really made it more important. And and that's the idea that I want in doing each of the suites. Obviously I'd love to go to Weimar or and do it there, but we can't move around like that just now. So I'm going to do it in places where I can drive with all my own cables and the junk we need. It's amazing how much stuff you need just to make a little video. But still.
Yeah. And so are you choosing particular acoustics for particular suites?
I would love to, really, but it's not going to work out like that. I mean, for the second suite in the hall that I got in Tibais, in this monastery in Portugal, is just, I'd love to just do all of them there. But the idea is to go to different places, because they've just been opening the doors to us. It's great. I thought it was going to be much more difficult, but no, it's fine. And the acoustics in this big cathedral in Celanova, where I've done the first suite, they're great. They're fine. They're not as good as the one in Portugal, but these places have natural acoustics. They were built to kind of enhance the voice or the singing or the instrument or the organ, to give it the grandeur that we can get, and it helps make us sound hopefully even better.
Absolutely. It's a feedback loop for sure. Anyway, we can't wait to hear this. I'm so excited about this project, and really thank you for doing it. And thank you for doing this interview.
It's always fun to talk to you, David, even if it's this way and not over a glass of wine. But we will do that in the future.
We will do it as soon as possible.
Great.
Thank you, David.
See you. Thank you.
Okay.